Welcome back to Sunrise. Mr. Funshol Lawal is an oil and gas law expert. Thank you for coming on today. But, you know, we heard the distinguished senator give us the mindset, the thinking, why the president actually declined assent to this bill, that particular 10% and then the 5% for PAF. Are you disappointed, or you think, okay, we need to perhaps those concerned get back to the table and see what they can do to amend that and send it back?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. As I've said, we've been on a 17-year journey to get the PIB in place, now the PIGB. And it has become the elephant in the room. It's become a problem for our sector. You know, the oil and gas business is an international business, so it's not giving us good optics internationally. So for me, I think we are now at the last mile with the PIG bill. I think what the distinguished senator has done is to highlight areas that the executive wants attended or redefined. And I think the ball is now in the executive's court to give a counter proposal to the National Assembly in terms of what it wants to see. The distinguished senator said about the back channels which they use to handle these things. I believe this should have been thrashed out, and there should have been an alignment of positions with regards what the PRC is taking. When I look at what the role of the PRC is as an agency that will replace the DPR, they will be handling licensing round for the disposal of oil and gas assets. Those transactions are quite sizable when you're having a licensing round, selling oil blocks of the country. You get signature bonuses. I mean, this could go as high as $2 billion worth of signature bonuses overall. So
these are services provided by the proposed PRC?
These are services to be provided by the proposed PRC in the sense that they will handle the sale process of assets that belong to the
So
nation
this is
of Nigeria.
10% of the services they provide, not 10% of the oil revenue, is it?
So 10% of the revenues they generate, because from the disposal of those assets, revenues are generated.
Those are services they provide.
Yeah, those are services they provide. So the services they provide in handling the rounds for the country. And if they want to take 10% of that money, I think it's a lot of money. So I think there should be a settlement, an alignment between the executive and the legislature on this. So I think the issues are really, what we have to deal with today is more minuscule than where we were coming from. Okay. So, and I think, as he said, when the National Assembly comes back from recess, they're able to go back and trash this out.
But you know, this, as you say, taking 17 years, and they spoke to different stakeholders in this industry before they arrived at some of these conclusions. Was it that all of them saw this and didn't think it was too much before they passed it on to the president for assent?
I wouldn't know, I wouldn't know how they saw it and what the perspective is. But my belief is that there should have been an alignment on what it should be. So 10% going to the PLC, 5% of distributed refined products across the country going to the Petroleum Equalization Fund. I think it should have been ironed out. So for us to now say the president is not assenting to it, I think this liability shouldn't have been put on the president. I think the handlers from the presidency and the National Assembly should have negotiated this and come to a figure that's very reasonable and that will be acceptable. So I think it's an issue of negotiations on both sides. Would
you suggest that they don't get any monies or they get something reduced? What would you suggest? How much exactly?
I would not suggest that they don't get any money. I think, as Senator Enoch said, the Fiscal Responsibility Act already gives them subvention and they are budgeted for. And I think anything they could get to complement what they get on the budget for the services they provide will be good. So whether that magic number is 10, is 5%, is 2%, is 3%, I think there's scope for negotiation and agreeing on what that magic number is. I think the president means well. That's my view. I think he means well for the country. I think in the whole political pack and the optics about him internationally is that he has the good of Nigeria at heart. So.
Well, there's, I mean, those who may not have followed it may just think that, well, this particular one overshadows the entirety of this PIG bill. Yes, we do know that we're also expecting what the PHICB, the PIAB, even as the PIAB as well. So, are you optimistic that, who knows, all of this will also get to the table of the president sooner rather than later? Because for that sector to function well, they need all these other components.
You're very correct. I think undoubtedly we need to put boots on the ground very quickly. I think the Petroleum Host Community Bill is very important to ensure overall security in the industry. Also, the fiscal bill is very important because a lot of capital investments for new projects are on hold, you know, because IOCs want to understand, you know, they need to put money in deep water projects, capital intensive, very risky, and they need to ensure that the return on investment for these investments will be worth their while. So I think, you know, it's very important that we put boots on the ground and run very quickly on the PIGB, get it passed and look into, most especially the security bill, the host community bill, to ensure that there's freedom to operate, there's security, stability in the Delta, the host communities have skin in the game and have a stake in the game in a way that it allows them to see themselves as part of it, and they protect the assets in their domain. And I think that's the most important thing when international investors are looking at it today to invest in our oil and gas industry, is the issue of the security in the communities and the security of assets and security of the personnel.
So does that suggest that if the PIGB is sorted out and is assented to by the president without the PHICB being passed, we will have some challenges?
The PIGB deals with the governance and the unbundling of the national oil companies and its subsidiary, you know, ensuring best practice, transparency, accountability. So that deals really with NNPC and its subset of agencies. When we are going to address the security and the host committee, there's a particular bill which needs to get off the ground. When we're going to talk about the investments, the fiscal reform bill needs to get off the ground. So the way that they've dissected, initially it was an omnibus legislation. And I think they were wrestling with it and decided in their wisdom that it was better to chop it into 4 bits. So the first bit is the one we're trying to digest. So the next one, the host community bill, the fiscal reform bill, those 2 bills are very critical. There may be the Petroleum Industry Administration bill as the final one. But it's very important for us to get the fiscal and the host community right. Now, how long that is going to take in the scheme of things is a matter of conjecture. We don't know how long it's going to take. I can't put a time to it.
Okay.